Nintendo's legacy, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles. Nintendo makes great games. A good game needs to make me feel something. I want to be so moved that I'm different, more richly lived for having experienced it. It is beautiful, the rich array of human emotions, to be so altered by a temporary fiction, by something that was not real, and yet you feel it more than anything you ever felt before. We had an absolutely great 8 years with the Switch, played generation-defining games even. After all, it was all new back then, handheld to TV, AAA gaming at the palm of your hands. The hook, the innovation was intrinsic in the message, while in the successor of the Switch, much more rests on the quality of the games. As the novelty wears off, we don't care about the gimmick anymore. We need the games. Innovation in software will be Nintendo's bread and butter going forward as usual. And I think Nintendo knows that too, explaining why they've delayed the release for a strong launch window. Honestly, I'm okay with that. I can't help but be excited for Nintendo after seeing how Sony is, I guess, struggling a little bit to find their rhythm with PlayStation 5. As game development cycles have increased over the years, PlayStation 4 level hardware still meant about 4 years of work, at least aiming for the Last of Us Part 2 scale. On the PS5 era, this might have increased to 5 to 6 years, which explains why it's a bit dry still. Nintendo does have the advantage of working with a less capable hardware, making the game development easier. Making the games take less time, less details mean quicker bug fixes, a quicker release. The burden of hyper-realism doesn't exist for them. It also helps that the sort of games they usually make don't need realism to begin with. But despite that, we're at a point where Monolith Soft's wish for a research and development team was granted by Nintendo. Games are going to scale considerably, and they know both working smarter and with more people are a must. And the advantage of having so many exclusive IPs from Mario, Zelda, Xenoblade, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Smash Bros, Metroid, you name it, it will basically ensure a steady release of Nintendo Magic over the years. May not be every month, this time around especially, but they will not leave us hanging. Looking at you, Sony. And for me personally, Switch is the only handheld I use nowadays. I don't have a PlayStation Portal, I don't have a Steam Deck. With a caveat, of course, I actually didn't use my Switch that much recently, even while Mario & Luigi Brothership and Echoes of Wisdom were released. as there was something about this year that felt like we should have gotten Nintendo Switch 2 like 6 months ago, but we had to make ends meet with the original Switch, which maybe soured me unconsciously. I didn't want to pick up and play Nintendo games. In fact, I had a bit of a love and hate relationship with games this year. I really couldn't play many games, but that doesn't change the fact that amazing games are coming out, and the old hardware can barely do 30 FPS on our own echoes of wisdom with lots of frame drops. So I think the ambition of a game's design is also being limited here, not just the graphics. We can't play modern bangers like Metaphor ReFantazio or Baldur's Gate 3 because Nintendo Switch has PlayStation 3 level hardware inside. It's just too old. But now looking at the leaked games, we are seeing Red Dead Redemption 2, an open world game that looks phenomenal still, very CPU intensive, and imagine playing that at the palm of your hands. It really goes to show Nintendo is gonna do a better job with third-party support going forward. And if you're gonna counter that with this is a PlayStation 4 game, of course it's going to work well, then how about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? A PS5 exclusive that straight up doesn't work on PS4 due to data streaming issues. Switch 2, while not having an SSD, will be able to play that as well. And as someone who did not play Rebirth, I am really excited. Now, it is evident that it won't be as powerful as a PS5, but we've heard it runs the infamous Unreal Engine 5 Matrix demo, so I think we should give Nintendo some props here. The system itself on a hardware level is not going to be a slouch, and considering the generational leaps between consoles nowadays, how they have shrinked to an almost imperceptible degree, it all rests on the software and optimizations. Look at PS3 to PS4 games, that is perceptible, but PS4 to PS5? Well, I don't know about that. At least so far, it doesn't feel like Spider-Man 2 can't run on a PS4. It is as if all it lacks is an SSD, not a GPU upgrade. PS4 still has some juice in it, and Switch 2 can house many third-party games going forward. And one of the reasons why I say that is being NVIDIA's custom DLSS solution that Nintendo had to tweak a little bit, since we're talking about a low-wattage handheld machine. You want to push the frames and increase the resolution. Well, that's gonna have a cost that a 30-watt powered machine, for instance, may not be able to pay. So don't be fooled by the PC space. While DLSS seems like a magic trick, turning a 1080p image into 4K resolution without an FPS loss, modern GPUs can do that with ease since there is enough juice in the tank. Switch 2 will have to use a custom API to make sure whatever juice is in there can run the game while upscaling it simultaneously. While the hardware itself will provide PS4 or PS4 Pro levels of performance, with the DLSS upscaling mixed in, maybe even the frame generation as well, Nintendo's underrated studios like Monolith Soft can have a field day with this. Really push the pedal to the metal, as they say. After all, look at what these guys have accomplished with Xenoblade X on the Wii U. That open world, streaming all that data, was very expensive back in the day, and they managed to do it on a 2-generation-old hardware at this point. The graphics and the ambitions of X is so high that JRPG devs like Atlas on PS5 with all this horsepower sometimes can't even come close. Looking at you, Metaphor ReFantazio. And I'm not saying this because I particularly care about fidelity. I actually don't. What I care about is technology not holding back the vision of the developers, their ambitions. If you want to make your game open world but can't because of the limitations of the hardware, that is bad. That is a bummer. Because of the hardware, you cannot make that a reality. I think we've seen that when it comes to Xenoblade 3. So hardware, while not the end-all be-all, is very important. But while looking at X, I want you to realize that without fast SSDs or DLSS, Monolith Soft, these guys did this on Wii U purely by their optimizations and hard work. And now imagine what we're going to see with Xenoblade 4. The sky is the limit, literally. While Nintendo did an admirable job keeping the interest going for Switch on 2024, it is clear that they're holding out on us for this year, whether the games are already cooked and just waiting or they're working on optimizations we don't know. What I know is that the wait will probably be worth it. Mario Kart 9 will probably be a launch title. While we get a small sneak peek with the trailer, it actually shows one of the key ways Nintendo wants to use a stronger hardware, improving the actual experience. Graphics are better in Mario Kart 9, surely, but it won't be that noticeable. It's actually not even that big of a difference compared to Mario Kart 8. What is noticeable, however, is the draw distance and how much bigger and more expansive the tracks are going to be. In fact, we've heard rumors regarding how the next 3D Mario will be open world. The CPU is now capable to render the entire world in real time without loading screens, and as a result, it is strong enough to house 24 racers simultaneously. Something that wasn't possible before. I think it was only 12 racers tops in any given track, double that with 24, and it's gonna get even more competitive and hectic. Playing that online or single player, that is going to give us a next-gen experience, a different experience, without even touching the graphics. Maybe the difference is not noticeable at a glance on an aesthetic level, which I still enjoy, by the way. The system looks very slick, like a Steam Deck, with the blue and orange sticks, but this is a next-generational console, through and through, with experiences we won't get anywhere else. A Direct will be hosted on the 2nd of April where we will see these games, and hopefully not so long after the actual release. While I do have some gripes with Nintendo lately, looking at you, Tears of the Kingdom, they still understand how to make fun games. They know how to innovate and make unique experiences that we can't get on Sony or Xbox. While not every single thing they do lands perfectly, at least they try to take those risks, which is something I value. Looking at the mouse Joy-Cons, I want you to imagine playing Metroid Prime 4 like that. It is basically perfect for first-person shooters, which are notorious for being compromised on consoles with a controller. A stick is simply not as precise as a mouse. On the left hand, imagine controlling your character as usual, and on the right you're simultaneously aiming as a mouse and also pressing buttons with your thumbs and index finger. Now that's a different experience. Think about that. Don't just write it off because that is not innovative enough. When games are also designed around that, I think it's going to get really interesting. The gimmick of the original Switch was being able to seamlessly switch between handheld and TV play. While that is refreshing, it actually doesn't change the way we play games. Think about the Wii Remote or Wii U screen. They attempted to change the way we interact with the pixels on the screen, and right now, in its own way, Switch 2 is trying to do that with the mouse Joy-Cons. It is not as innovative, but I would argue it doesn't have to be. Keeping it simple will ensure maximum game support going forward. Third-party studios won't be intimidated by it since PC users are already experiencing it. Might as well optimize the game for Nintendo as well. Personally, I'm just glad Nintendo is finally pushing the envelope this year. And I'm here for it. With all of you, of course. I got great responses on the Philosophy of Xenoblade 3 analysis, and just as I promised, the Xenoblade Trilogy analysis focused on Future Redeemed and Alpha is almost done. If you subscribe and click the bell, you will be notified when I get to release it in a few days. But that's it for me today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.